Hello, I'm Shinkansen and welcome back to the second channel video. So getting around Japan is so expensive that a lot of people never truly leave Tokyo, or if they do, it's for a day or it's not for very long. And although there are a few tricks where you can save money if you're a foreigner, particularly the rail pass, it's still really expensive. Let me show you the prices for unlimited rail travel in Japan. It's still a crazy high amount, and that is an insane saving that people in the country wish they had. Anyway, so basically if you want to get around Japan, whether you live here or if you're just visiting, you have a few different options, all of which are absurdly expensive. And given that I'm flying domestically to Sapporo in Hokkaido, and then I'm going to be taking the train back, I think it'd be a fun comparison, like which is better, should you fly, should you take the train, both in terms of cost, in terms of performance, in terms of everything else. And given that I'm taking a lot of Shinkansens around Japan, I think it'd be a kind of fun comparison. I love flying, I love Shinkansens, and there are two cool things about getting around Japan, but which one is better? Let's find out with this video, I guess. Quick interjection here, but this video is actually sponsored by Skillshare. We'll be talking about that later on the video, but for now, thank you very much. Check the description if you want to learn more, but let's get back to the video. Yeah, let's go to the airport now. That's the station. Actually, that's the station. So I'm now at Tokyo Haneda Airport, which is the closer of the two airports. It's right in the city, it's convenient to get to, you just gotta take the monorail. And something I've spotted now that I'm here is that flights, kind of like the Shinkansen, actually display how much availability there is to book seats in each class. So if you wanna either upgrade to first or buy the ticket right here at the airport, which I guess some people must do, then you can actually see which flights have seats and which ones don't. And as it turns out, a lot of flights are entirely full, and it seems my flight is one of the only ones with seats left available, and even then it's only in first and in economy, none in business, but okay, and whole separate class there. So yeah, today I'm taking a really interesting flight also, because in Japan, domestic flights are in such high demand, especially to Sapporo, where there isn't such a great train connection. They're in such high demand that they don't just fly the 737s, the A320s. Every single short flight I mentioned in a video recently is pretty much the same. Like, right, it's a tiny plane, it's single aisle, you take off, you land an hour and a half later. But it's different in Japan because they buy wide-bodied aircraft, including 777s, 787s, etc., and they configure them in the same way you would configure a domestic plane, i.e. super tight, super packed. And it means there's this really interesting situation where, despite me mentioning that JAL is the best airline for economy, and they definitely are internationally, domestically they have some of the tightest planes around the world. They fill them, they take the same plane, which is otherwise super spacious on these international routes, and they fill them kind of like a budget carrier domestically. And I think that's interesting to see. It proves the point that there is a real difference between domestic and international. And anyway, now I'm gonna actually go use this JAL Global Club to check in because of that One World status. Again, that's from a separate video, the Gold Card video. If you have any One World status, you can use any other One World Alliance member status privileges, including check-in at this nice black desk. So I'm gonna go do that now. Okay, I've got my ticket. I'm in seat 23K, which is interesting. You don't usually get K on a domestic flight. But I forgot to mention exactly why do they have these wide-body planes on the routes that are quite short. And it's because there is just so much demand from on various routes, especially the Tokyo to Sapporo. It's the third busiest flight in the world. We're not just talking domestic there, we're talking every single route in the world there combined. Interestingly, the fourth busiest flight in the world is also in Japan as well, from Tokyo to another far-flung region, Fukuoka, FUK Airport. Fun name for an airport, right? But basically, because of this, they have a lot of demand on these routes, literally tens of millions of people a year, close to 100 million, and because landing slots in Japan are so expensive, because it costs a lot to take off each time, it kind of makes sense, like, okay, if we're having a plane taking off every hour, and sometimes more frequently than that, rather than, going to half-hourly, why not instead just have bigger planes? And because of these expensive slots, because of this high demand, it makes sense for them to buy wide-bodied aircraft. It means, there's a lot of flights around the world that can't make sense internationally, even super long routes that you just can't get 200, 300 people on, but they can consistently get 300, 400, sometimes even more, people on a single flight, which is why you get flights like mine, which are operated by a 777. That means the plane that I'm flying from just a small regional flight is actually going to be bigger than the plane that I flew all the way from Frankfurt in Europe. So I think that's cool personally. Anyway, I'm going to find something to eat in the airport because I can't go through security yet. Interesting little quirk of this airport. So I just had the most comfortable and pleasant airport security experience I've ever had anywhere in the world. It was so easy, so fast, so effective. Like literally scan ticket, 10 seconds later, everything's in the tray. 20 seconds later, it's all gone through, I've gone through, everyone's smiling and happy the whole time. It felt like they were there, you know, trying to do a good job, which is something I really like. So, you know, flying domestically in Japan has a high cost because of the airport, various different prices that come in there, but it's rather nice too. So this is the Diamond Lounge. It's a pleasant place to wait for a flight and also have beers poured for you by machines and also get some Japanese snacks. So, really nice place, got some amazing runway views. This is honestly all I want in an airport, just stare at some planes for an hour, wait to my flight. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, A+, nice use of that gold card. Again, you can get in here if you either fly in first class or if you just have a gold card like myself. Nice little bonus, but you probably shouldn't be talking here. There's big signs saying go to these little booths if you want to speak on your phone. So. So I bought it early, and it's really cool to see just how big and like just how dense these planes really are. Because again, it's not only that they're dense in terms of how many seats they fit per row. This is 10, by the way, but also because it's such an economy-heavy configuration. When you're doing an hour-and-a-half flight, who really wants business or first class? In this case, business class is just called Class J, and it's just it's slightly less than premium economy as you'd expect internationally. And there's a first class, but it's a very small cabin, and it's more for connecting passengers really. But yeah, it means because of that, there's a very tiny amount of seats for first or Class J, and the majority of the plane is just packed like this. It's cool to see, and I'm interested just how full this plane actually gets, because again, they need to use these because they have too many people for a 737. So the seat is pretty much the same as you expect on any airline. You know, you get a reasonable amount of legroom, actually a little bit more than most airlines you fly in with short planes, and yeah, it's a small seat, but you're only in it for an hour and 10 minutes, I believe is going to be the flight time today. And just over an hour later, I've landed. And can you tell, by the way, this is one of the coldest parts of Japan? Don't know if you can, but yeah, easy flight, short, simple, and we're here. About 2 minutes after landing, we now have to go to this JR train over there. So it definitely should be noted that even if you do choose to fly this route, there is a train or a monorail required on the Tokyo side, and then there is an airport express or rapid train on this side, both of which can take up to or roughly an hour. And you can't really avoid that because the alternative is a taxi that will cost over $100, into the tens of thousands of yen, I should say. Yeah, basically it involves a train on both sides, so let's get on this one already. A small but interesting side note here is the fact that if you reserve a seat, you get a nice kind of normal looking train service, whereas if you don't reserve a seat, again, exactly the same train, you get a more metro style kind of thing like this. I think that's fascinating that this is both kind of like a metro or like suburban style train, but also like a express train all in one. I don't know, wacky stuff. So I had a great day in Sapporo, but now I'm going to head back down towards Tokyo, but slowly, step by step. And the first part of the journey, the unavoidable longest step, is about 90 miles on the Hakodate Express. It's a limited express train, so it's the fastest ever train you can get. But it still takes just over 4 hours to get between Sapporo and Hakodate. And that's just to get from the middle of the island of Hokkaido to the bottom. So that should give you a good idea of what the train's like. So yeah, just over half the journey time is spent on this one train. Fortunately though, because of the green ground pass, I'm actually here in, again, what's called a grand class or green class carriage, which is going to be super comfortable, so it should be pretty nice, just give you a good overview of what it looks like. And even on these super slow and somewhat outdated trains, it's still a lot more futuristic than the trains like they are in your country. So So I'm about halfway through the journey right now, and one of the things that never seems to stop surprising me about Japanese trains is the fact that as well as getting your regular toilets, which are nice and spacious by the way compared to internationally, you also get like men's only restrooms, which obviously have just a urinal in there. And there's something about that I just find so weird, but maybe it's just me. Maybe it's weirder to find it weird than not to. Also, there's a multi-purpose room. So that's the first 4 hours down. I'm now in Hakodate, and yeah, I'm going to be staying overnight here. You don't have to do this, but I figured because it's such a long journey, I'd take a couple of breaks here and there. So I'm now on the train for the second half of the journey. It's a Shinkansen, so the super fast Japanese bullet train, if you will. And just to show you how ridiculous the kind of speed difference is here, so you know the first 4 hours got us from Sapporo to Hakodate. The second 4 hours will get us from Hakodate all the way down to Tokyo. So you can also stop halfway through, about 2 hours in, to go to Sendai, which is what we're doing today. But yeah, just as a point of like how ridiculous that is, there's a thing. So there's one thing I do find interesting about the Shinkansen, and that's in the toilets. They've got some funny signs in here. Also, it's an automatic toilet. After that train that barely went faster than running, it seems, it's so nice to be on a bullet train and be going at like over 200 miles per hour in some cases. And yeah, there's no cool thing about this journey because we're going from an island to another island to get to Tokyo, right? So that means we're going through the Seikan Tunnel, I believe it's called. So yeah, it's called the Seikan Tonoru, which I love that tunnel translates to Tonoru. But and it's got the longest undersea section of any tunnel in the world, even beating the Channel Tunnel. I think we just went through it now, by the way. I was wrong. In Sendai and on the Cat Island, I'm back on the Shinkansen heading towards Tokyo. It's only 2 more hours to go for what should be a total of 8 hours, though we've split it up across 4 days. I'll let you know when we get there. Side note also actually, just seeing how fast we're going, because we're at like max speed right now, it's crazy how fast the environment just goes past you. It's bad example. It's crazy just how fast the environment goes past you. Hopefully you can see that in a few seconds off this tunnel. And just a short 90 minutes later, actually, I'm now in Tokyo for a total journey time of roughly 8 hours, although again, split across many days. And I figured now's gonna be the best time to actually compare the two things overall, because this has been a fun like travel vlog, like, oh, isn't it fun to fly in Japan? Isn't it fun to take the train? But what's the actual cost breakdown? What's the actual time breakdown? Which one is actually the recommended method? And this one might blow your mind a little bit, because the flight from Tokyo to Sapporo one way, because I was taking the train back, was roughly £80. So that's close enough to $100, which means that for a round trip, it's going to cost you $200 to return from Tokyo to Sapporo, which is actually a lot more expensive than I'm used to for short hops like that. But you know, Japan, expensive airport fees. But then for the train for the same journey, if you want to go one way from Tokyo to Sapporo, it's 27,500 yen. So again, you'll see what that actually is, and it's like, my god, that's one way. There's very few discounts. You can get a few thousand yen off that, but that's the standard ticket price. You'll pay close to that, if not entirely that, for a one-way journey, which means both ways it's going to cost you double that. It is very expensive to take the train from Tokyo to Sapporo, even if it is the way you prefer. However, it's worth mentioning that that cost is only paid if you live in Japan, you're Japanese, or there's a whole bunch of criteria where you basically can't get the rail pass. But if you have a rail pass, the rail pass will literally cost you for a week for unlimited travel, or even 2 weeks for unlimited travel. It's pretty much the same price as that one journey. So the real price, if you're a foreigner slash a tourist that's only visiting on I think it's called a temporary visitor pass to Japan, the real cost is going to be whatever a rail pass costs you for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Even the 3 week, I have the 3-week rail pass, which is for green class, so kind of like first class, and even that is roughly the same price as one return journey to Sapporo. And given I'm about to use it to go to Nagoya and many other places, you can basically, and also it works in subway systems and stuff like that. Basically, you can make your money back on this one trip if you're a tourist. But if you're not a tourist, if you live in Japan or you're not visiting on a tourist visa, you're going here to work or something, basically the flight wins in price. The flight doesn't win in price, the flight destroys in price. So if we then compare the time taken, it was 1 hour and 10 minutes in the sky for the JAL flight. However, there was, a half-an-hour subway ride both sides, and you do have to be at the airport at least half an hour before your flight, with an hour being more realistic. So if we just add all those things together, we're talking about 3.5 to 4 hours. So yeah, the time taken is also, the flight destroys the train in that particular regard. But then finally there's comfort. So the flight, when it comes to comfort, it was nice, nicer than most airlines, but it was a standard flight. It was only for an hour, but it was a little bit of an uncomfortable hour, you could argue, although the upgrade wasn't too much more expensive. Whereas the train was really, really, really nice in my opinion. It was just like, sit down, recline, have a great time. For 20% more, you can buy a green pass, which is super, super nice in that particular case. And I would just say that in general, the train was probably a bit more comfortable, unless you're willing to pay for business class on a hour-long flight, which just seems ridiculous, right? So yeah, the way I would describe that is the default journey is slightly more comfortable by train, and you can also upgrade your train experience a lot easier than you can upgrade your plane experience. Because even if you buy first class on the plane or whatever, that only applies for 1 hour of the 3.5-hour journey that you're going to be taking. So yeah, I would say overall, right now at least, I can't really recommend the train unless you already have a rail pass, in which case it's basically free in addition to what else you're doing. Or if you have lots of other plans to use it, then it might just work out for you to spend those extra hours. You'll see a bunch of the Japanese countryside. It's beautiful seeing it slowly go from the warmth of Tokyo to the iciness up north. However, I would say otherwise, if you have to buy the full fare, it's very, very hard to justify taking the train over the plane. And even in 15 years, when they finish connecting up Tokyo all the way to Sapporo with high-speed trains the entire way, as opposed to only most of the way, even then I would say it has to come down to, did you get it for free? And if the answer is no, then not in my opinion. So yeah, that concludes train versus plane in Japan. It was a surprising conclusion to draw. I didn't realize the price of the train until very close to the end here. I was like, my god, really? I thought it was bad, like over $100, but it's a lot worse. And yeah, just a reminder that traveling around Japan is expensive, especially if you are a native to Japan, and just keep that in mind as you do your thing. So let me just quickly mention this video was sponsored by Skillshare. That's right, you've made it in the education space when Skillshare comes and offers a sponsorship. And let me just mention that Skillshare did decide to sponsor this video, and I wanted to tell you about them because they're not just, a great sponsor, but they're also a great educational resource where you can learn about a whole bunch of things. I've covered before how you can learn about, like how to not procrastinate, and I mentioned that there were hundreds of other courses you can learn, and then I realized I got it wrong, there was thousands, but the actual number is absurd. I'll put it on screen, but I believe it's 27,000 courses they have on their website, and all of them are pretty good for a specific niche that you want to learn more about that you don't even realize till you read it. Like, oh yeah, how to go freelance. A lot of people don't realize I've been doing freelance stuff on the internet for quite some time now. How you even start that is something a lot of people don't really know. Like, go on freelance.com, which unrelatedly I think actually is a website, but no, the point is it's really hard to do anything. So I'm going to recommend, if you want to do something freelance related in the future, that yeah, you use the Skillshare website and you go to that particular course, or any of their other 26,999, which you can discover on that website. Thank you very much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Thank you to you for watching it, and as always, second channel, don't care. Goodbye.